is going to be a conversation about how we would, what positions and players we would like to target for the Detroit Lions. Defense only, because we know the defense is a huge hole. And again, we have said multiple times on the show, if they address the defense thoroughly in free agency, then that frees you up in the draft to maybe go after an Anthony Richardson or an offensive Bijan Robinson, right?
Yep.
So I do want to throw this out before we even get started, okay? To date, according to SpotRack, the Lions have $22.4 million in cap space before letting anybody go. I went through and looked at SpotRack and their projected slot values for the draft picks that the Lions have, which totals $14.4 million if they were to sign them all at that projected slot value. Okay, so remember, these are all projections. They can change a little bit, so don't come at me in the comments 2 weeks from now when everything is different. That would leave them $8 million to work with in free agency, which is not a ton.
No.
However, there are 3 guys that I think that they could cut that would free up more cap space and give them $26.3 million to work with in free agency. Okay?
Yeah.
Those 3 guys, Hal Vaitai, he just needs to go. He's $14 million cap hit right now. They would save $6.5 million if they cut him. Charles Harris is another one. Don't really love it so much, but saves them about $4 million. And then Romeo Okwara, who did not play much at all last year, would save them $7.5 million.
That's big.
They're also going to have to trim people anyways, because they currently have, I think, 46 people on the roster, and they have 8 draft spots.
Yep.
So somebody's going. And not to mention free agency.
Yep.
So it makes sense to kind of have that conversation all at once. Those are the 3 players I would target to just drop. That's barring any trade that they make for Jalen Ramsey or anything like that, right? So we're going to work off of that $26.3 million to spend in free agency. Okay?
Yep.
Which means that we have 3 players. Could be more, but we just kind of like 3s for whatever reason. Seems like a good, solid number is my college football number. So I just wanted to throw that out there. What positions did you address in free agency, defense only?
I addressed all 3 levels. I addressed corner, I addressed linebacker, and I addressed the D-tackle position as well.
So just give me one of yours to start, and then I'll tell you mine, and we'll go back and forth. So give me your first cornerback. Or that first level cornerback.
Yeah, I'm gonna knock off the my repetitive one. I've got Jamel Dean.
Yeah,
Jamel Dean is still somebody that's high on my list. 26 years old, great cover skills, good tackler out of Tampa Bay. I don't think they're gonna bring him back. I think he's gonna look for a different deal and new opportunity somewhere else. And I think he fits in perfect. I think he's a good man shadow player. And I think he has a lot of upside with this defense, and he still gives you the opportunity to sign or draft somebody else to round out a pretty loaded secondary at that point. I believe if you pick him up, I would love to see Jamel Dean here.
SpotRack has his market value at $16.5 million a year. You comfortable with that number?
Not really.
For the 12th best cornerback according to PFF.
I mean, he's not. I would feel more comfortable signing him than maybe drafting a corner early. Outside just the financial, I want somebody that's, like I said,
you're
that has a little
about
more
a
veteran
$10 million difference.
I understand
For
that.
instance, if they draft a corner at 6, they're only paying him $5.7 million.
That's cool, but he might not be ready right away. I think Jamel Dean is going to be ready to go right away. This team is ready to win now.
I love addressing the secondary.
Okay.
However, I didn't address the secondary.
What in the world? Who's your number one?
We did this. So listen, we did this a few weeks ago, and I told you every time I went through the secondary, the best person to sign, in my opinion, in the secondary, aside from Jamel Dean, I didn't want to take him from you, was Patrick Peterson. who's 32 years old. And I don't love that. It was cheap. It was like $4 million, $5 million, but I don't love that. So I thought, okay, I looked at our DSN draft Bible. I was like, the cornerback class is pretty deep. You could get multiple cornerbacks in the draft. So why don't you address free agency elsewhere? So I actually have 2 defensive tackles where we need the most help.
Okay.
And a linebacker. But I'm going to go with the linebacker first, and he's actually a repeat for me, and it's Tremaine Edmonds.
Okay.
This dude, I don't care what you have to do to sign Tremaine Edmonds. You sign Tremaine Edmonds. You know why you signed Tremaine Edmonds?
Why is that?
He's 25 years old.
He is.
He's been in the league for 4 years. You signed Tremaine Edmonds. Market value from Spot Rack is about $11 million per year. Some believe Tom Pelissero today said that he could garner about a $15 million a year contract. I'm okay with either of those numbers.
Wow.
I'm signing this guy.
Okay.
He is. If I have a target, like a dartboard target, he is the bullseye. Everybody else is outer rings. He is the bullseye, and that's who I'm aiming for, is Tremaine Edmonds.
I'm with that.
Solidify that linebacking core. 25 years old, man.
He's a little inconsistent sometimes, but he has big game-breaking ability. He's a good player. Very good player.
53rd best defensive player in the league, according to PFF, which I know is not like game-breaking. I understand that, but top 10 linebacker in the league last year. Only 25 years old. Like, that's huge. That's huge. It is.
They need that.
Yeah.
They absolutely need that. I would be okay with that number too.
Who's another free agent you want to sign?
I'll stick with the linebacker position too. I'm all for sticking it to the rivals.
Sure.
Go after Minnesota's own, who they just got rid of. Go get Eric Kendricks.
Okay.
I like Eric Kendricks. I like his game a lot. He's very physical, great blitzing linebacker. He gets to the quarterback. He's very good at picking passes off as well. But he didn't blitz as much as he normally does this past season. I think the Lions will find a way to get creative with him, and I think he will be a huge impact player to tip balance within the division and within the NFC. I would love Eric Kendricks here with the Lions.
So you want to stick it to a rival?
Yes.
And so do I.
Okay.
With a defensive tackle, also from the Vikings, Dalvin Tomlinson, who is a 15th ranked defensive tackle according to PFF. Only is going to cost about $8.5 a year.
Okay.
Solidify, plug up that middle. You're going to release Charles Harris. Tomlinson's better. That's my second guy. That's my first defensive tackle and second guy. Just keep
sticking it to him since the Hawkinson deal. Keep it going.
You know what? People are going to eventually refer to this as the curse of TJ Hawkinson, because what did he say when he left here?
Oh, I get to win
now I get to win, and guess what? We won more than you, and we're going to take your players and beat you with them. Go ahead. Even though he may sign somewhere else, right? Because he's technically a free agent. Very possible. So, who's your number 3 on your list for defensive free agents?
My number 3.
This one cracked me up when you said it to me.
This is also a sticking to him kind of guy. This is a guy I've been high on, even when we drafted him. And he addresses a need, and I don't think he'd be expensive at this point. I'm bringing A'Shawn Robinson back to the Detroit Lions.
Bring him back.
I'm bringing him back. Matt Patricia said you'd never be back in the league, pal. He wrote you off, and you went and got a Super Bowl ring, show that you can still be valuable to a team. And there are plenty of teams that could use a guy like A'Shawn. He's good in run support. He wouldn't have to play like every down. You're only using him for maybe 2 possession, and then you're not going to have to use him for a while. You bring him in for a year or 2 through this contending window where you're trying to build, draft somebody behind him to let him go after that. Come on back, A'Shawn.
Only
I would love to
million.
have A'Shawn back here.
$8 million a year market value.
I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. He's a proven player. He has value. I think he would still work here at this defense.
So you have overspent your budget.
Hey, scared money don't make no money. Let's go. Whatever. We'll make it back.
You have spent $34 million in free agency, which means you're either cutting more people, which is fine, or not signing all your draft picks.
We having a Girl Scout cookie sale later. We'll make it all back. Don't worry. We'll make it all back.
As long as it's the Samoas, I'm all on board.
Hey, bull, we got a customer. Let's go.
And not Thin Mints. Thin Mints can go burn in the trash can as far as I'm concerned. Those things are disgusting. Whatever. We're getting off track. My third guy.
Cool.
Okay. Let's
good.
solidify the interior defensive line even more, and let's go after Chris Wormley from Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Michigan guy,
all
right? Michigan graduate. Top 20, 21 ranked on PFF as a defensive tackle. Only going to cost you about $6 million a year. Guy that you can get in there, can plug up, can play. If we're looking at addressing needs, then you have to address needs with more than just one person, right? So if they signed an A'Shawn Robinson and a Chris Wormley, well, guess what? When A'Shawn's not in, Chris can be in. Now we've addressed the need, right? So I don't know. I mean, defensively, there's plenty of ways that you can go. I think with if you were to cut those three players and had $26 million to spend in free agency, it would be well worth it to sign multiple people. As long as Tremaine Edmonds is number one on that list, he's got to be the top of the list.
I feel like
Jamel Dean. Like I'll give you Jamel Dean. Like if it's Jamel Dean or Tremaine Edmonds, even though I would prefer Edmonds a little bit more to solidify that front seven, and then address the secondary through the draft.
Sure.
That's why I didn't put any secondary on my list, because I was like, it's so deep, right? Gonzalez, Witherspoon, all these Branch from Alabama. There's just so many opportunities in the draft that I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna try to address it.
No, I just want to see again. I don't think they're gonna get. I don't think they're gonna get, like you said. We have our three. I think maybe we'll see a position where they get one and then just kind of prioritize the guys that were there last season. Like I think that's what they're gonna plan on doing. I mean, hitting through the draft.
Yeah, you could see them going after a Jamel Dean and re-signing Jamal Williams